Welcome everyone to my channel. I'm so excited to have you here, whether you are a parent who is struggling with feeling burnt out just with the entire journey of parenting, or specific behaviors that you may be experiencing in the home that you just don't really know what to do with at this point, or a partner who is having difficulties navigating dynamics within the relationship, or even a friend trying to struggle through how to maintain and grow friendships. Really, if you're any human, right, that is journeying through this life, I'm excited that you're here. My name is Christi Shelley. I am an occupational therapist licensed in Idaho and Washington states, and I'm also a holistic wellness coach, and really passionate about human resilience and our ability to connect to one another and grow and navigate this beautiful life that we find ourselves in, even when we come up against things that we don't really know what to do with. So, welcome. One of the things that, if you've been watching my shorts throughout the week, that I'm excited to talk about is just a general overview of emotion regulation. And if you've heard about it, it's kind of a buzzword. It's everywhere that you look. It talks about nervous system regulation and emotion regulation and 5 quick things that you can do to regulate your nervous system. You know, these aren't things that are new to us that I'm sure you have been exposed to up until this point. And I have a different view on it, as do quite a few of my colleagues, in that regulation is not this thing that you just suddenly achieve, right? And the whole point of emotion regulation is it allows us to connect, right? We are wired for connection to other humans, and connection is what adds meaning and value into our lives and actually increases our well-being, our mental health, and our resilience. So I'm really passionate about our ability to connect, and that starts with emotion regulation. So what is it? It's not what people typically think of, which is what I would label as self-control, right? Self-control is I have an emotion and I don't let it get the best of me, right? So, but in my experience with 10 years working with kiddos, some of the kiddos that are the most dysregulated can also have quite a bit of self-control. And so those might be kids that fly under the radar, or maybe you have that experience yourself where people don't necessarily know that you're upset internally, but you feel a fair amount of suffering, right? So self-control, or what we present outwardly, is not emotion regulation, okay? It's also not the ability to be calm, right? Coping skills in these ways to like soothe and calm down, I believe, miss the point, because that's not emotion regulation either. There might be soothing in that, and we all have times and spaces and experiences where we need to soothe ourselves, but that's different than emotion regulation. The word that comes to mind for me when I think about emotion regulation is capacity or range. Both of those come to mind for me. And it is the capacity to stay connected to myself and my body with whatever I'm experiencing. And I have a mentor who uses the term comfortably uncomfortable. I can sit with this intense emotion that I don't necessarily want to sit with, and I can be with it without running away from it or disconnecting from it, pushing it down or shutting it down, or on the opposite end, amplifying it and making it bigger and louder and more intense, right? We've both experienced these ways of navigating emotion in different humans. And really, it's the ability to move towards that emotion without going in either of those directions too intensely. Now, are we going to do that? Yes, that's what happens when we're human, right? And this is a journey we get to do our whole life, and it's not like we have failed emotion regulation if we amplify an emotion or we disconnect from it. But the keys, I think, that I have found and I have learned are curiosity and compassion. Can I move towards this experience that I am having and notice what's going on for me with curiosity, right? When this person in front of me gets really upset with me, I notice I get really hot and my heart beats and I start to stumble over my words, or I notice I can't really think clearly. And I start to notice that curiously in the moment, or perhaps later when I'm reflecting back on it, right? Because that's how it starts. It's very difficult to do this in the moment when we are having an intense emotion by ourselves. We're not really meant to learn how to do that by ourselves. And we'll talk about what co-regulation is. So if I can be curious about my experience and then direct self-compassion to it of, I'm really suffering in this moment. And, that makes me emotional because we all have experienced a great deal of suffering, right? And so when we can turn that warmth towards ourselves, give ourselves warmth and compassion like we would do to a child who is in distress, or someone we deeply love, or perhaps an animal, right? These characters, humans, animals in our lives that are so valuable to us. When we can give that love and that warmth and that nurture to ourselves in that moment, that is what increases capacity, right? And so I can't actually grow capacity if I'm comfortable, right? If I never have an experience of an emotion that is hard for me to hold, then I'm never going to grow at that capacity to hold it. And part of this work as a human is learning how to walk right up to that edge of this is almost too uncomfortable and sit with that with compassion. Now, I think about myself 10 years ago where I'm like, okay, this is great, but this is not doable. Like, those are some great topics, Christi, but that's not reality. And, I think it has been my experience that this is very difficult to do on your own at first, especially if you have a history or a life experience where people have not done this for you or with you as a child, or even as an adult, right? If your experience with others is that they do one of those two things, they shut it down, dismiss it, get rid of it, or they amplify it, then it makes it difficult to feel met in that moment. So, in this moment, I am noticing that I am moving fast and that I care so deeply about this topic that my thoughts are going fast and I'm wanting to get it right. And that's making me have an experience of internal stress, right? Because I want this to be well. And I'm having a moment of compassion for myself in that I don't have to get this right, that this is important information. And if it lands with you and it resonates, then it's meant to land with you and resonate. And if it doesn't, then that wasn't the moment. So, regulation, in a summary, is the ability to sit with whatever experience you are having, connected to it and your body. As an occupational therapist, we call this interoception as an aspect of this. And let that emotion move through me. And I often learn how to do this with another person first. Someone who can sit with me in the emotion so that I can tolerate it a little bit better because I don't feel so alone. And that can be a very scary and unsafe feeling experience to a lot of people, if that is a new experience. And so this is where it starts. And this is why I'm not a fan of working necessarily directly with people on coping skills, or on, if I get a referral for a kiddo who struggles with emotion regulation, I'm not really that concerned with the behaviors in the room. What I'm concerned with is how do I hold the experience that I am having when I enter the room? Because the person in the room, the other human, is the adult in the room, right? Lisa Dion is an amazing, amazing play therapist. Highly, highly recommend her. And she always talks about how there's more than one nervous system in the room. Whether it's a child, if I'm working with someone, if it's a child or it's a parent, or if this is my partner or my friend, there are two nervous systems there, and they are both experiencing things. And the beautiful part about this, especially the concept of empathy, is something called mirror neurons. Mirror as in a mirror you look in, right? And what happens, and we can see this on brain scans, is that when someone has an experience, it lights up certain portions of their brain that then also light up in the other person. And that is how we can start to experience empathy, right? And to resonate with another person's experience. And so often we walk into a room and we want whatever is happening to stop, right? Whether it's this child that's screaming and throwing things, whether it's the partner that is arguing with me, or I'm not feeling heard and they're, giving me all these excuses, whatever is happening, or whether it's a parent who is so overwhelmed and overstimulated that they can't do anything in that space because their nervous system is tapped out, right? When we walk into that room, we are going to have an experience in our own body that resonates with that other. Does that make sense? So, for example, if I walk into a room and there is a kiddo that is angry and they are just rageful and wanting to destroy the room and all of the things that triggers in me, one, my own experience of anger, right? Don't mess up my stuff, right? Respect my space, please. But it also gets amplified by those mirror neurons that are helping me tune into how they are feeling internally. And so what the first step is for me, and this is where I'm a little bit different in my belief systems and what I think matters to address, is not addressing the behavior in that moment. Truly, I'll get there. But in that moment, I don't care because what is happening in me has to take priority. And that might be I'm feeling panicked because I don't know what to do, right? How do I get control of this situation? Maybe I'm feeling afraid of what the parent might say if this kiddo destroys my room. Maybe I start to feel afraid of all these other things. Maybe that kiddo is also feeling afraid and that's starting to resonate some of that fear in me, right? And so the first step I have to do is to take care of myself. And I know breath work sounds so overrated. I know it. I teach it. It's one of those things where everybody talks about it and it's like this, yeah, that's great, but this does not help me in this moment. But the reality is that it truly, truly can, right? So if in that moment I am noticing this panic and I notice a tightening in my chest and I notice a rising sense or a wave inside usually it's in like where my diaphragm is, of panic, and I start to shake a little bit, then if I can breathe, what that does is increase my capacity to stay with the feeling, right? Rather than moving straight into trying to address the behavior so I can get away from this feeling, because that gives me something to do, gives me an action. How do I resolve this so I don't have to be in this? Or rather than like shutting it down and disconnecting from it, right? That breath gives me space to be in that experience for a little bit. And Jill Bolte-Taylor is a neuroanatomist who's incredible. Definitely highly recommend you read her work. I will link her book down in the description. But she talks about how neurobiologically it takes 90 seconds, truly 90 seconds, for emotions to move through our body neurobiologically. Now, we can continue to trigger them with our thoughts, right? This is like rumination. But if I can hold and sit with that emotion, it can often move on its own in 90 seconds. Now, of course, I'm not saying if this kiddo in this hypothetical room is unsafe or in danger, then I'm going to sit with my feeling for 90 seconds and do nothing about that. That's a different scenario. But let's say they're just having a normal experience of rage or anger that's not unsafe. And I'm not feeling like I need to intervene just yet, but I can have those 90 seconds to sit with myself. Then what ends up happening most often in my sessions is when I start to regulate, they start to regulate. Because of those same mirror neurons, right? They're activating me. And then if I can, in my adult capacity, start to regulate that in myself, that starts to do it in them too. And I didn't have to do anything but care for myself. And this is the same when I work with parents. You know, if I'm getting, my nervous system's picking up on something in a parent, I prioritize what's going on in me first. And then we work on them being able to do the same when they're with their kiddo. And I do this in my relationships too. And I will often narrate my experiences out loud. That was really hard for me. I don't know what to do right now. I feel a little flooded or a little frozen, right? That takes a lot of practice to be able to do that in the moment, but it's possible. It's absolutely possible. It just takes lots and lots and lots of repetition. And so this is why I'm such a big believer in community, in building relationships and building people that we can safely practice this with. Because the more we practice it, the bigger that capacity becomes and the easier that skill set is to pull on when I need it, especially if there is something that catches me off guard or a really big, intense emotion that I need to sit with. So that's, in a summary, emotion regulation and the importance of connecting to ourselves. We call that in the therapy and the wellness world embodiment. And it can be a scary thing to be embodied, especially if being in your body has not felt safe, right? So there are complexities and layers and nuance to this that will take many, many, many conversations. And I hope you have questions. I'd love to have more conversation on this, because there's so many different ways to access it and access points for people. So overall, the three main things that you can take from this video to move forward into regulation is, one, the awareness that it's not trying to get rid of an emotion or to change an emotion. It's the ability to be with it with compassion and curiosity. That's the biggest takeaway from this video, is that's what emotion regulation is. The second is I grow capacity to sit with hard emotions by doing it with other people who I feel safe with, by accessing and using my breath, or really any other strategy that allows you to be in contact with that emotion. That can be different for everyone. That can be breath. That can be touch, right? In OT, we call that proprioception, getting that deep pressure touch. That can be rhythm, or for me, I pace, right? If I'm trying to, or I'm a big fan of rocking. We're getting into some sensory stuff now with vestibular and rhythm, which are really, really, really powerful regulators of the nervous system. And by regulators, what I mean is they cue the nervous system to feel safer. And the more safety I can access, the longer I can sit with this hard emotion, right? So those are the second things. And then the third thing is that when we are interacting with other humans, no matter who they are, whether it's a child, a parent, a friend, a partner, the first thing that I need to do when I'm in relationship with that other person is care for myself first, always. And that is a direct quote from one of my other mentors who tells me this all the time. So I preach what I need to learn, right? Is always take care of ourselves first. So if I am in an argument with someone, or maybe I'm feeling afraid or anxious of judgment or whatever is going on, there's an awareness that some of this is mine. And there is also a resonance in the room with those mirror neurons and what's going on with the other person. And so I have to start with myself first so that I can open myself up and be safe enough to connect, right? Because when we come back to it, everything is about connection and relationship to other people. So we learn this with other people. That's co-regulation, being able to co-regulate with another person or have someone witness and sit with me in that uncomfortableness, being comfortably uncomfortable. And as we get more comfortable with that, we are able to do that more for ourselves. And that is the start of emotion regulation and its impact on relationships. So please don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell if you want more notifications, drop a comment if you have a question or if you want more information on a specific topic or specific strategy or tool. I'm excited to do this journey with you guys. So thank you so much for tuning in.